In the fifth lecture, we will cover the roles of personality and values in the workplace. By the end of the lecture, we want you to be able to define personality using the 5-factor model, describe the pros and cons of personality assessment, contrast terminal and instrumental values, describe the differences between person-job fit and person-organization fit, and explain Hofstede's 5 value dimensions. For those of you who have already taken theories of personality here at SIUE, this section is a review for you. Personality is a representation of your entire psychological system. More specifically, we define personality as all of the ways in which an individual reacts to and interacts with their environment, which includes other people. We might also define personality as the measurable traits that an individual exhibits. Traits like shy, outgoing, aggressive, loyal. For more than 100 years, psychologists have been studying personality. The evidence is fairly clear that personality is determined by both nature and nurture. There are genetic factors and there are environmental factors that influence the development of our personality. Understanding personality can help us understand why we feel, act, and think the way we do. We can then use this information to help us interact with others. The effect of personality on behavior depends in part on the strength of the situation. Situation strength theory tries to explain this concept. When the situation provides strong cues for appropriate behavior, people are more likely to behave appropriately. When the situation is not as strong, when it's more ambiguous, the cues are not as obvious. And so people don't always behave in the way that we would expect them to behave. What this means for managers is that if we want people to behave in certain ways, we have to make sure those expectations are very clear and that everything in the environment supports and reinforces those expectations. On the next few slides, we will learn more about 3 different models of personality. The Big 5, the Myers-Briggs type indicator, which is the most popular but least predictive, and the dark triad. One of the greatest challenges in the study of personality is its measurement. Managers need to know how to measure personality because doing so can create an advantage in the recruitment and hiring processes. Typically, personality is measured using self-report surveys, but research indicates that culture can influence the way that we rate ourselves. People in individualistic cultures, for example, tend to enhance how they present themselves to other people, while people in collectivistic cultures tend to do the opposite and downplay their unique personality characteristics when they're in social situations and when they're alone. One of the major issues with self-report surveys is that they tend to be less accurate when compared to other forms of personality measurement. For instance, when we compare an individual's self-report survey data to the data we collect from their family, friends, coworkers, bosses, coaches, and so on, we find that people in individualistic cultures tend to enhance, make themselves look even better, whereas people in collectivistic cultures tend to downplay their uniqueness. Self-report surveys also tend to be less predictive of job performance and influenced by one's culture. This means that it can be difficult to get an accurate measure of someone's personality because current measures are probably measuring personality and culture. To combat some of the issues with self-report surveys, developers often include what are called lie scales, which are sets of items spread throughout the survey that are designed to identify people who are either lying or misrepresenting who they are. An example of a lie scale item is, I always tell the truth. If a test taker answers true, I always tell the truth, a red flag is raised. Everyone should answer that question false because no one always tells the truth. In addition to self-report surveys, we can ask other people to assess an individual's personality. We can invite family members, colleagues, peers, classmates, and so on to provide multiple sets of ratings for a single person. We can then average those ratings to come up with a more accurate representation of that person's personality. As you can imagine, when we're asking 5 different people to participate versus 1, it takes a lot more time, energy, and resources to administer observer ratings surveys. Therefore, they are not very popular. One thing that is difficult to eliminate with personality measurement is the impact of culture. Observers, the people providing the ratings, are also influenced by their own culture and its expectations, norms, tradition, language, and so on. Their dominant culture may expect a certain person to behave in that way. If that person does not meet those standards, it may affect how they are rated on the personality measures. In reality, they may be highly conscientious, but because they don't rise to the level expected by the observers, they may be rated as only average in conscientiousness. In a perfect world, we would use both self-report surveys and observer ratings, but this is rarely done due to organizational constraints.